So, Sarah, this question is for you first. And this is also, and I expect no punches to be pulled on this one. So you both have the relative advantage of having been on the executive this year and working closely with me. Everyone fulfills the role of president very differently. What's one specific aspect of the way I've chosen to fulfill this role that you disagree with, and how do you plan on doing it differently?
Don't fire me. Just kidding. So I think something that a different approach that I would take than Chris has taken this year is really focusing on the executive as a team and really working to support the VPs. Not that Chris hasn't supported us at all, not what I mean, to make sure that the DSU continues to function effectively. Not that it hasn't functioned effectively this year.
Thank you, and Jamie?
Mine would be a lot around the approach to council. To me, it seems that we often treat council as something to essentially like rush things through, and we're trying to essentially limit discussion and treat it as a bit of a rubber stamping body in many cases. To me, that should be the place for lively debate and actively engaged council. I think is really important to a strong student union as a whole. I would even approach that from a bit of a social angle too, where it's building relationships among counselors so they feel engaged when they're actually in the meetings. There's a sense of trust. I would start off with like a council orientation day of some sort, and involving council in other activities of the DSU, making it mandatory that they're active in orientation week, for instance.
Thank you, Jamie. I'm glad neither one of you went over time, because it would have been really awkward to cut you off. I swear you're out of time. It's not that I'm getting upset. Sarah, do you have a rebuttal?
No.
Jamie?
No, I would second what Sarah also said around just being available to, ultimately everything comes back to the president in terms of accountability, and if your VPs aren't doing their job, then that falls on you as well. So.
Thank you. So this next question goes to Jamie first. And it's, being the president of the student union is different than being a vice president. I'm assuming you've both put some substantial thought into this, and I'd like to know what you think you need to change about your personal leadership style so that you can be an effective president next year.
I think I alluded to it a little bit earlier, that in the role of student life, I aim to kind of take on this casual, spontaneous, super creative type of approach, because I felt that was what the position needed. And not to say that I wouldn't take that into the president role, but being a little bit more aware of like time scales and the overall operations of the union. So yeah, I guess just balancing that sense of creativity with also stability and long-term planning, essentially.
Thank you. Sarah?
Yes, actually I had a similar response to that question as well. I think a major way that the VP roles are different from the president role is that the president needs to be able to plan ahead, not just for themselves, but for the whole organization. So I think that will be a different aspect of kind of stepping outside of the bubble and really taking a look and trying to incorporate everything that's going on in the DSU and how everything works together and how everything can support each other, and just being really cognizant of all those issues and how to get things done, accomplished. And I think that is something that is a little bit different than the VP roles, because you often are in your own portfolio kind of streamlined. So that would definitely be a different approach.
Thank you. Jamie, do you have a response?
I think just to emphasize again that I do bring a wide, different range of experiences from before being involved in the DSU, and I have a sense of how to empower individuals that I'm working with, but also give them the hands-off approach that they need to feel empowered to do it, but keep them accountable. Sarah?
No, I have nothing to add.
Thank you. So this next question goes to Sarah first, and it's pretty simple, but a pretty hard question to answer. Why do you want to be president?
I want to be president because I think I'm the best and most experienced voice for students at the decision-making tables. I want to be president so that I continue to represent students' needs and interests to all decision makers, whether that's the administration, the municipal, federal, or provincial governments. And I think that's extremely important because it is the role of the president to represent students and to be that voice, that active voice, that engaging voice, and that representative voice for students. And I also want to be able to couple that with an active and lively student body, because that's how you get the voice to be able to represent students, is by creating that active and exciting campus life and harnessing that and using that as kind of momentum to bring that forward to the decision makers and to the people that are making decisions. And so I think that's really why I want to be DSU president, is to be able to balance those two things and be a strong voice for students.
Thank you, Sarah. Jamie?
I feel that essentially when I first arrived in Dalhousie, the student union was, as a first-year student, it wasn't something that was front and center in people's minds. They didn't know what it was, why they should care about it, etc. And I feel that over the last 3 years, we've taken on some really interesting projects that make the student union something that is hands-on, student-centered, and that's the approach I keep coming back to. Things like the leadership department fundamentally change the way that students interact with the student union, where it's not just through faculty societies and through societies that are sitting on council. There's actually an opportunity for direct hands-on engagement, and I'm really excited to continue on with those things, while also learning from other portfolios as well and taking on new challenges.
Thank you, Sarah. Do you have 30 seconds?
I would say that Jamie is right, that the leadership department and the leadership activities are extremely vital to life at the DSU and student life on campus. But it is the role of the president to be the spokesperson for students and to be the representative. And so the president needs to be able to work with the executive as a team and to nurture that as a group so that students are getting the attention that they need and the activities that they are asking for and all those great things. But it is the role of the president to continue to advocate on behalf of students.
Thank you, Sarah. And Jamie?
And I would be very excited to take on that role as spokesperson, but do it in a way where it's very reflective of a large percentage of student body voices, essentially, and staying connected to those students.
Thank you. This next question goes to Jamie first, and it's, if there's one thing you could accomplish on the University Board of Governors next year, what would that be?
I think we've spoken about it as an executive, where we talked about within the DSU looking at a divestment policy where about 10% of our resources right now are going into the oil industry, about 6% is going specifically.
Sorry, I think you might have misheard the question. Oh, okay. You're going.
And 6% is into the tar sands. I think it would be a very interesting and progressive approach to actually lobby the university's board of governors around a similar type of tactic. And that's something that, as an executive, we've unanimously, essentially, agreed to.
Thank you. Sarah?
I think in the coming months, the most important role that the student representatives on the Board of Governors can play is protecting these student groups on campus who don't have a tuition cap. It'll be extremely important to present that student need as the university needs, so that students like professional students, international students, aren't being treated like the word that's been thrown around, cash cows, and they aren't being taken advantage of. And it is the role of the Board of Governors to set the tuition levels and fee increases. And so I think it's extremely important for students the student representatives to stand up for the other students at Dalhousie.
Thank you. And Jamie, do you have a response?
I would echo that is obviously a very top priority as well.
Sarah?
Ditto.
Some dittos going on. Okay, so my next question is very similar and goes to Sarah first, and that's if there's one thing you could accomplish on the University Senate next year, what would it be?
I think one thing that I would hope to be accomplished at the University Senate next year, and it's actually something that I'm working with the current senators on, because I'm also a senator this year, is to bring the academic appeals process in line with the discipline process. So a few years ago, the discipline process was overhauled and made fair for students, but if a student wants to make an appeal to a professor's decision or a grade, it doesn't have the same streamline, the same uniform fairness across all faculties, and I think it's extremely important for students to recognize that and get those policies changed so that students are fairly represented and have a fair opportunity to display their grievances.
For me, it would be around with the upcoming merger with the Agricultural College. I think there's a really interesting opportunity to create new types of academic programs that allow for sharing between campuses, and I would be very committed to. That's not the kind of thing that would happen overnight or even in 1 year, but starting the discussion to ensure that we're not just merging in terms of finance and that kind of thing, but that we're actually improving educational quality for both agricultural college students and for Dalhousie students, and increasing the variety and breadth and depth of potential learning opportunities.
Thank you. Sarah, do you have a response?
Just on the agricultural college kind of line, it's something that we've talked about this year as a Senate caucus, is to get another student seat that represents students from the NSAC, and I think that also goes along with what Jamie's saying, but by helping that merger along by representing not only the faculty and the academic needs, but also the students that will now become Dalhousie students.
Thank you. And Jamie?
I guess just carrying the same stream of thought, looking at experiential learning opportunities in a broader sense as well, particularly for art students. I know that they're looking at kind of drastic ways that they can improve the art student experience and kind of make it more of the 21st century. I think experiential learning opportunities could be a very valuable component of that.
Thank you. And just for the sake of completeness, we've hit almost every organization I'm somehow involved with. So I'm going to ask you about the last two boards that I'm on, which is the Alumni, and that one of you will be on next year, which is the board for the Dalhousie Alumni Association, and the Black and Gold Club, which is a group of varsity athletics alumni. So how would you see the student union interacting with those two bodies, and what value can the Alumni Association and the Black and Gold Club bring to students next year? And this would be Jamie starting.
I've worked quite closely with members of the Alumni Board, Jim Wilson in particular, around things like homecoming and the rugby game, and essentially promoting that sense of black and gold Dal spirit. I think that it's the kind of connection that could really shift again the student experience, where job opportunities, networking. Around homecoming in particular, I don't think we've even scratched the surface of what we could do with homecoming. Right now we're having events where it's students and alumni are in the same area, but students and alumni are not necessarily interacting. And I'd be very excited to create those opportunities where it's direct hands-on engagement with one another, learning from each other and each other's experiences. And in fact, at the most recent Brains for Change, we had the National Alumni Board come in and have lunch with the Brains for Change, or members of Brains for Change.
Thank you, Sarah.
So I think some key ways that the DSU and the Alumni Board, as well as the Black and Gold Board, could really connect on. Jamie kind of touched actually on what I was going to talk about, and I think mentoring is a really key opportunity that we can tap into. I know Evans this year has been working on the DSU Innovation Program, which is helping students start up new business ideas, and having alumni linked into that to help. So they're actual business people, and mentoring Dalhousie, entrepreneurs, and that connection can be really strong. As well as homecoming, as Jamie touched upon, and as well as O-Week events. So this year, as Jamie mentioned earlier, the Welcome to the Fam, or the induction ceremony, was a huge success, and the Alumni Association played a part in that. So I think that's a really important way that alumni can connect with students at Dal from start to finish. And as well with the Black and Gold Board, I think it would be really important to connect with the VP student life and really strengthen those athletics bonds and really strengthen that Dalhousie spirit.
Thank you, Sarah. And Jimmy, you have 30 seconds.
One very specific initiative with the Black and Gold Club, and it was actually something that we started a discussion on this year, is doing road trips. My athletics commissioner, Henry, right here, is putting together the pieces on that, but doing road trips where students and alumni are going to away varsity games together, and I think that could be a really cool community building experience.
Thank you, Sarah.
Another thing, this just came off the top of my head. I don't know what it's going to come out like. But I know like at a lot of other student bars, for example, alumni still come back to hang out at their bars. And so maybe that's another way to get alumni and students interacting, is making the Greywood and the Tea Room and the Grad House places that not only students want to go to, but are actually destinations for DAL grads as well.